In the hospital corridor, Oliver waited anxiously, his heart clenched with a mixture of fear and hope. His tired eyes roamed the barren corridors of the place, each step echoing like an echo of his own agony. The cold white light of the place cast shadows over his tense face as he struggled to maintain his composure in the face of the bleak situation. One of the nurses then broke the silence, calling for Oliver. "Come in, she's waiting for you." In one of the rooms on the third floor, his wife, Jasmine, lay on the bed, pale and frail, a shadow of the vibrant woman she used to be before that terrible illness. His breathing was irregular, his eyes half closed in a disturbed sleep. She took the elevator with her face sweating cold. They were already facing that battle for months, and Jasmine did not show signs of improvement. On the contrary, it seemed to get worse every day. Before entering the room, he said a little prayer, and then opening the door approached her, his voice a whisper charged with concern. "Darling, good morning. How are you feeling today?" he asked, his hands shaking slightly as they touched hers. She opened her eyes slowly, seeming to have to make a lot of effort in that small movement. Her gaze met his in a mixture of sadness and resignation. "Not much better than yesterday, unfortunately," she murmured, her voice weak and fragile. "But I'm more worried about Bella. It's been so long since I've seen her. I wish I could see her one more time." The man nodded, understanding his wife's concern for her beloved dog. "I know, honey. I wish I could bring her here for you, but I can't. It could bring you a photo, who knows, or even a video." A shadow of sadness crossed her face. "I know it's impossible, but I just wish I could see her for real one more time. She has always been my source of comfort, my ray of sunshine on dark days." The man held her hand tenderly, his voice choked with emotion. "I would do anything to fulfill this wish for you, my dear, but I don't know how we could do that." She smiled faintly, a glint of determination in her eyes. "You have always been my hero, my love. If anyone can find a way to do that, it's you." With these words, the man felt a surge of determination take hold of him. He would do the impossible to bring a ray of joy to his wife's pale face, even if it meant defying the rules of the place. Before the illness that hung over them, the life of the couple was like a harmonious melody, where each note was an echo of the love they shared. They met during the distant college years, at an unexpected meeting in the university library. He was immersed in his law readings while she flipped through psychology books when their gazes suddenly met in an exchange of shy smiles. Those shy smiles in the library soon turned into unassuming little encounters down the hallways with embarrassed greetings, until little by little they turned into deep conversations, and before they knew it they were in love, building dreams together in the light of the setting sun. And there were many of them. They wanted a solid career, travel, and also children, maybe a lot of them. Soon both graduated and remained united. They experienced good times where they achieved almost meteoric ascents in their careers, climbing salaries that perhaps they could not even imagine being possible. Within a few years came the engagement, a large, spacious, and cozy house waiting for the children. The wedding of both was a wonderful celebration, demonstrating all the love and commitment they felt for each other, with promises made under the shine of the stars. Together, they began to live a unique life filled with adventure and accomplishment, promising to be there for each other in the ups and downs that life would bring. But fate had other plans, and tragedy struck them hard. The spacious house was not yet filled. After several attempts, the couple did not get the long-dreamed pregnancy, and although it worried them, they were still young, and at that first moment it was not so serious. They remained focused on their careers, while visiting doctors to understand what was going on, that they could not generate a new life. It was a long 5 frustrated years of failed attempts, until it finally happened. Jasmine got pregnant. They were both immensely happy. They made plans for the little child. They bought the trousseau. They decorated the baby's little room. It was a boy. His name was Arthur, and he was very loved by his parents even before he was born. However, on a cold October morning, when Arthur was 5 months pregnant, something different happened. They were sleeping when Jasmine felt that she was bleeding and despaired when she saw that a lot of blood was leaking. Desperate, the two got up and ran to the hospital. But it was too late. Although the doctors had tried to induce a forced birth, Arthur was born lifeless. The loss left them completely stunned and desolate. Their dreams of fatherhood and motherhood had been completely shattered before them. In their mutual grief, they leaned on each other, finding strength in the bond they shared. "How can we move forward after that?" whispered Jasmine one restless night, tears streaming down her tired cheeks. "Let's find a way, my love," Oliver replied, holding her firmly. "Together, we can overcome anything." But the practice was proving harder than the reality. After that, Jasmine was entering a tremendous melancholic state that culminated in a depression. Oliver, unable to help his wife, sought help as he could in psychiatry. That battle lasted a few years. It was a period of complete darkness. Oliver, worn out by the help given to his wife, began to become sloppy at work, and where he had previously been an exemplary lawyer, he began to lose causes considered easy, thus losing his prestige. Jasmine, fallen into her depression, could no longer attend, and all her patients soon disappeared, migrating to other professionals, all of which made her suffer even more. The treatment was harsh and gave off a lot to the woman, who seemed more fragile than ever, while Oliver prayed and asked the Lord to send them an angel to save them. Having children again was no longer a priority. It was as if time had already passed for them. But it was during this period of darkness that a light of hope finally appeared in their lives in the form of Bella, a puppy that had been abandoned on the street where they lived. It was morning when Oliver went out with Jasmine to walk a little and enjoy the morning sun, as had been recommended. That's when, after walking a little more than 100 meters, they heard a high-pitched barking coming from the middle of some foliage. They both stopped to listen. It was at this moment that the little cub came running towards them, whose sad eyes and drooping ears instantly captivated them. Looking at her, they instantly saw not just a bitch, but an opportunity for healing and renewal. Not that the dog was able to replace or even heal the tragic loss, but it was a way to appease the suffering spirit. "Look at her," Oliver muttered. "She is like a ray of sunshine in the midst of a storm." He finished laughing. "What do you think we should take home?" Oliver asked, his heart warmed by the idea of giving Bella a loving home. Jasmine, still fighting an internal battle with depression, barely noticed the presence of the new visitor. His days were a mixture of sadness and apathy, his smile a rarity that hid in the shadows of his mind. But Bella brought with her a contagious energy, a joy that penetrated even the darkest corners of the house. At first, Jasmine barely looked at Bella, her mind shrouded in a haze of sadness and hopelessness. But Bella, with her sweet persistence, did not give up so easily, as if the dog had adopted Jasmine and not the other way around. As if she had more than duty, a mission to cure her. She jumped around Jasmine, wagging her tail enthusiastically and begging for attention. Her antics were a source of constant entertainment, a welcome distraction from the shadows that haunted Jasmine's mind. The dog was insistent, and Oliver, who tried to get closer, did not seem to arouse his interest as much as she had in Jasmine, who before that presence began to notice a change within herself. Bella's presence began to affect her in ways she never would have imagined. Their smiles became more frequent, their laughter more genuine. She found comfort in Bella's hugs, in the affectionate licks she doled out as if she knew exactly what Jasmine needed. One afternoon, while watching Bella play in the garden, Jasmine felt a spark of hope ignite within her. She realized that despite all the struggle she faced, there was indeed a light at the end of the tunnel. It was the first time she had noticed that since the tragic loss. And that light came in the form of a sad-eyed bitch, whose unconditional love had the power to heal even the deepest wounds of the soul. When Oliver got home that night, she hugged her tight, thanking her for taking the dog home and saying everything she had felt that day. As the sun set on the horizon, Jasmine promised herself that she would fight with all her might against the darkness that surrounded her. With Bella by her side, she knew she could take on any challenge life threw her way. For sometimes all it takes is a little love and a healthy dose of mischief to brighten up even the darkest of days. That's how Bella soon became a part of their lives, bringing a new light to a home that had been shrouded in the darkness of loss. Their joyful barking and lively banter brought a sense of joy and renewal, showing them that even in the darkest moments, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. Determined to fulfill his wife's wish, the man left her room and walked down the hospital corridor, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he would have to be cunning and creative to get around the strict rules of the hospital. And so he returned home, thinking about how to get around that situation. He knew that simply asking for the nurses he would be barred, and if he asked and was barred, any other attempt would be easily discovered. Oliver parked the car in front of the house, tired after a long day at work and also in the hospital. He sighed deeply before getting out of the vehicle and walking to the door. As he opened the door, he was greeted by the familiar sound of Bella's paws on the floor, followed by her animated bark. "Bella, my girl," said Oliver, crouching down to pet the dog. "I missed you so much today." Bella wagged her tail enthusiastically, looking at Oliver with her eyes full of joy. She jumped around him, as if she knew he was in need of some cheering up after a hard day. "Were you a good girl today?" Oliver asked, looking into Bella's eyes as if waiting for an answer. Bella barked in response, as if to say, "I always am." Oliver smiled, feeling grateful for Bella's presence in his life. He approached her and hugged her affectionately, feeling the comforting warmth of her body against his. But the dog was restless, as if waiting for someone else who had not come through the door for a long time. "You miss Jasmine, don't you?" "She misses you too," Oliver said, looking into Bella's eyes seriously. "She needs us now more than ever. So, I need you to behave, okay? You are very important to her, Bella. I wish I could take her so you guys could see each other a little bit, but I don't know how to do that, girl." Bella looked at Oliver with understanding, as if she understood the seriousness of the situation. She nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "That's right, girl," Oliver said, stroking her head affectionately. "Let's show Jasmine how close we are as a family, okay? She needs all the love and support we can offer." With those words, Oliver and Bella stared at each other for a moment, sharing a special bond that transcended words. That night, Oliver went to sleep thoughtfully. He did not want to disappoint his wife, but getting a dog into the hospital seemed impossible. In the morning, Oliver woke up with a start at the sound of something dragging on the floor. Rubbing his eyes to ward off sleep, he looked around the room, trying to pinpoint the source of the noise. His gaze fell on Bella, standing at the foot of the bed, a suitcase in her mouth. "Bella, what are you doing?" Oliver asked, yawning and sitting up in bed, still trying to figure out what it was. Bella looked at him with her sad brown eyes, the suitcase swaying from side to side in her mouth. She let out a low moan, as if trying to explain her strange discovery. Curious, Oliver approached and examined the suitcase. It was an old suitcase, shabby from time, and with a slightly worn handle. He frowned, trying to understand why Bella was joking with her. "What are you doing with this, girl?" Oliver asked, bending down to pet Bella. Bella put the suitcase on the floor and looked at Oliver expectantly, as if trying to tell him something. Oliver frowned, feeling puzzled by his dog's unusual behavior. "Do you want me to open this?" Oliver asked, pointing to the suitcase. Bella barked in response, her tail wagging with excitement. With a curious smile, Oliver approached the suitcase and slowly unzipped it. As soon as she opened the suitcase, Bella jumped into it and barked excitedly. His eyes then widened in surprise, and he screamed, "That's it, Bella. How I didn't think of it before," I said, patting the dog. "Bella, you are amazing," Oliver said, his eyes shining with emotion. "Well, we can do this, but you're gonna have to behave, okay?" Bella licked Oliver's face affectionately, his expression radiant with happiness. After breakfast, Oliver drew up the plan again with the dog, said that she should be very quiet so they would not be caught, and that they would enter the hospital and he would have to stay inside the suitcase, but it would be very fast, only until they reached Jasmine's room. And so the two got inside the car and headed towards the hospital. "That good girl. Wait for me here. I'll prepare the ground and I'll be right back." The dog barked as if to confirm. Entering the hospital, every step was calculated, every breath a mixture of anxiety and determination. As he passed the nurses at the reception desk, he tried to keep a neutral expression, but inside he felt the weight of the lie he was about to tell. "I just came to bring some items to make my wife more comfortable," he muttered, avoiding the inquisitive gaze of the nurses, who, despite everything, did not suspect anything. "Can I come in now?" "Yes, we can, let her know." The nurses nodded with a gentle smile, not suspecting the real reason behind their visit. He continued his journey, his steps quick and determined as he headed back to the parking lot, where an even greater challenge awaited him. As he opened the car door, a wave of relief washed over him as he saw Bella sitting patiently in the back seat, her eager eyes reflecting the joy of being with her owner. He stroked her head affectionately, feeling grateful for his dog's quiet loyalty. "Come on, Bella," he murmured, his tone soft and comforting. "We're going to make the impossible happen." Oliver placed Bella inside the suitcase and closed it, leaving a small space for the dog to breathe. He knew the challenge was just beginning, but he was determined to bring a moment of happiness to his wife, no matter the cost. As he walked with Bella inside the suitcase, Oliver delved into his memories, recalling the happy moments he and his wife shared before the illness. He found himself going back in time, remembering how they met, the warmth of the afternoon sun that lit up the university campus. He smiled as he remembered the first dates, the long conversations they had about their dreams and hopes for the future. The memory of his wife's radiant smile, of the sparkle in their eyes as they shared their passions, warmed his heart even in the face of the sadness of the present moment. But their memories were interrupted by the memory of the tragedy that shook them to the core. The miscarriage was like a knife in her heart, ripping her dreams to shreds and leaving them adrift in a sea of despair. He felt a lump form in his throat, the pain of loss still fresh in his mind. Soon, too, he remembered the day they found her. An abandoned cub, her sad eyes reflecting the very sadness they carried. He took her home in the hope that she could bring a ray of light to Jasmine, and it had worked. The dog had rescued Jasmine from the darkness, and because of this, he trusted that everything would work out. The years since they had met Bella had again been filled with light. The days seemed to be beginning to flow with lightness, and even, despite the traumas, they began to plan again for a new attempt at pregnancy. Until 6 months ago, Jasmine woke up with a feeling of unease that consumed her. For weeks, she had experienced persistent fatigue, accompanied by nagging headaches that seemed to suck her energy. However, that morning, she felt something different, something even more troubling. She mentioned her symptoms to Oliver, who immediately expressed his concern. Together they decided it was time to seek medical help. At the hospital, Jasmine underwent a series of examinations and tests, while Oliver waited anxiously in the waiting room, his heart clenched with uncertainty. Finally, the doctor called Oliver into a room and made a grim expression as he entered. Jasmine looked at Oliver, her eyes filled with apprehension, as she waited for the doctor's verdict. The doctor explained that the results of the examinations were worrying. Jasmine had been diagnosed with a serious illness, a rare and aggressive form of cancer, a soft tissue sarcoma. This disease affects the soft tissues of the body, such as muscles, tendons, fat, blood vessels, and nerves, and can develop rapidly and spread to other areas of the body. The severity of Jasmine's condition was such that she needed to be admitted to hospital immediately to receive intensive treatments such as chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and possible surgeries to try to stem the cancer's advance. However, despite the efforts of the doctors, the disease continued to spread, leaving Jasmine increasingly weak and debilitated over those last few months. It had all been a new bucket of cold water. That debilitating condition again changed the course of their lives forever. Oliver felt as if the ground had been ripped from under his feet, while Jasmine struggled to hold back the tears that threatened to overflow. From that moment on, their life turned into a roller coaster of emotions. Jasmine, who was immediately admitted to the hospital, underwent a series of aggressive treatments that left her body weak and her mind confused. Oliver had been by her side for most of the past few months, always holding her hand and offering her words of comfort when she needed it most. While Jasmine battled the disease that threatened to consume her, Oliver felt helpless in the face of his beloved wife's pain, but he refused to give it up. He promised himself that he would be by your side, no matter what, until the end. Finally, less than a month ago, the day had come when the doctor gave the final diagnosis. It was worse than they feared. Jasmine had an advanced form of the disease, and her chances of recovery were minimal. Oliver felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. As Jasmine tried to absorb the devastating news, she didn't have long to live anymore. But even in the face of the bad diagnosis, they refused to give up hope. They clung to each other, finding comfort in each other's presence as they faced whatever fate had in store for them. As he made his way to Jasmine's room, he looked at Bella inside the suitcase. The dog was going so quiet that it would be impossible to tell that there was a dog in there, seeing beyond the simple dog that she was. She was a symbol of hope, a reminder that love and hope can flourish even in the darkest of places. He stroked the suitcase with gratitude, knowing that she was there to help him fulfill the last wish of his beloved wife. As they reached the bedroom door, Oliver felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. Upon entering, he found her lying on the bed, a fragile image of her former strength. Their eyes met, and he saw the mixture of sadness and gratitude in her gaze, an expression that struck him right to the heart. "Did you succeed?" she asked, her voice weak but full of hope. He nodded, his voice failing with emotion. "Yes, my love. I brought Bella." A faint smile lit up his wife's pale face. "Thank you, dear. You always find a way to make me smile. Even now." Carefully, he let Bella out of the suitcase, watching admiringly as the bitch approached the bed. She lay down next to her wife, her body fitting perfectly next to her, as if she knew she needed to be gentle and careful, taking great care of the threads and serum attached to Jasmine. The three stood together in silence for a precious moment, each lost in their own thoughts and emotions. The man felt a lump form in his throat as he saw the tenderness on his wife's face as she stroked Bella's soft fur. "Thank you for bringing her here, my love," she said, her voice a soft whisper. "She will always be our light, even when I am no longer here." The man struggled to hold back tears, his heart heavy with the inevitability of parting. But he knew that moment was too important to be ruined by sadness. He moved closer to his wife, wrapping her in a loving embrace, knowing that they would never forget that moment of connection and love. The dog snuggled even closer in Jasmine's arms, crying a meek, almost muffled cry. With the dog by her side, Jasmine fell asleep, and Bella remained there, completely motionless, for 20 minutes until Jasmine woke up moaning in pain. The bitch immediately began to lick her and moaned softly, as if suffering for her, and also knowing that if she barked, she would be found out. Jasmine hugged her for almost an hour, smiling the whole time. At that moment, a nurse suddenly entered the room with silent steps, interrupting the intimate moment between Jasmine and Bella. And though Oliver had been startled by it, making mention of explaining himself, the nurse's eyes filled with tears as she witnessed the scene of love and parting unfolding before her. She remained silent for a moment, touched by the deep connection between the three. Fearing the possibility of being reported for breaking hospital rules, Oliver stood up to explain himself. However, the nurse looked at him with compassion and kindness, silently promising not to reveal what she saw. His gesture of compassion brought a ray of hope amid the darkness of loss that seemed to be imminent. When his wife finally fell asleep, exhausted by emotion and pain, the man carefully put Bella back in the suitcase, preparing to leave. He knew that moment would be Bella's last goodbye to her beloved Jasmine, a farewell that would tear her heart to shreds. In the days that followed, the illness finally took Jasmine away. She died by his side, but left with a smile on her face, completely graced by the last request that had been fulfilled, but leaving him inevitably plunged into an ocean of sadness and loneliness. The man found himself struggling to find meaning in a world without his beloved companion, while Bella looked at him with her eyes full of questions, unable to comprehend the absence of the woman he loved so much and that this time he would never see again. From that day on, every time the man picked up the suitcase, Bella followed him expectantly, eagerly waiting for another visit to the hospital. But he knew that he could never go back there, that part of their lives had come to an end so abruptly and cruelly. The suitcase became a painful symbol of the memories he held in his heart, a constant reminder of the wife he loved and lost. However, even in the midst of sadness and longing, the man found solace in the presence of Bella. She became his anchor in a sea of turbulent emotions, a source of unconditional love that helped him face each day with courage and determination. And together, they moved on, honoring the memory of their beloved Jasmine and finding comfort in each other as they faced the uncertain future that awaited them. Thank you very much to those who have supported the channel financially through the link in the comment pinned. This helps me to bring more and more stories to you. And don't forget to like and also subscribe to continue receiving the new stories.